many of the hobbyists, especially when they begin, they will always have this, wandering over one to authenticate and to buy, and second, probably if they have something of their own, and if it is non-functional,
Right.
where do you actually get it repaired? And these are the questions which they ponder over.
Correct.
And I'm sure that these will be generally answered by senior hobbyists
Yes,
within the
yes,
forum
yes, yes.
or within the group,
Yeah.
where it will help them to get connected to the right kind of people who will not cheat you but then do a good job out of your watches.
Yes, Professor. I think you bought for any horologist, right? Who's basically collecting mechanical watches. His biggest hurdle would be to find a good watch technician. The demand actually for mechanical watches has drastically fallen. We are at an all-time low.
What happened was, everyone that I met, I could see them, they are literally senior citizen and more or less want to shed their shop, which has been operational for so long.
I can only think about 4 or 5 people who are into handling a vintage watch and getting it back to shape, and even out of them, right, only a couple of them will do a very good job for you. So the market is so narrow to find a good technician.
True. And most importantly, this can only be happening through the right connections and right channels.
Right.
That's also very important to observe.
Very correct.
And as I went more deeper into this, it was more of a welcoming notion that there are still people who are genuine, still people who are interested in carrying on this tradition
Yes.
of repairing mechanical watches and
Right.
keep the hobby alive on one side and the livelihood alive on the other.
Absolutely. See, another very important factor is, every vintage watch, right? I'm sure every collector would have put in a lot of effort to procure that. So what happens is, the moment you put in that amount of effort and you find that watch as your passion, right? It becomes very difficult to give it to someone else even for a service. That's my personal feeling, which is something dear to, right? You're parting with it. That's the kind of feeling I go through every time I drop a watch to a service.
Have the confidence in the person, and
Right.
you know that for sure that if the watch is in safe hands and you can sleep peacefully in the night.
Absolutely. That's so most of, or else I don't think I would have I would have lost my sleep for a lot of days. If I've been able to find a couple of very genuine watch technicians, whom the moment I pass on a watch, I know it's in safe hands. They know to handle it.
Okay, so it's been quite a good interaction at the first level.
Absolutely,
And,
very exciting.
Thanks for joining.
Pleasure is mine, Professor. Very innovative idea. I think enjoy.
Let's try and explore this much and more, and let's
Yeah.
try and invite more people to this.
Yeah, that's the intention. That's the
We
intention.
try to bring you more exposure to this hobby.
Absolutely.
And, beautiful watches and collections which otherwise would never have been exposed. Let's try and do that. Meantime, Kiran, as the last part of this, I would like to know a little bit about what you are going to showcase today,
Sure.
and how that journey in particular is started.
Sure. So right. Some a few watches from one of my personal favorite brands. It's a Swiss brand called as Enikar. So that is my that excites me. That name itself excites me. Such is the heritage of this brand. So basically, Professor, Enikar is has a very rich heritage and history. It has been around since 1854. So it has almost a 166-year-old very rich heritage to it. From 1854 to 1914, right? It was basically a family-owned business. So as back in 1800s, right? So in Switzerland, when this whole watch movement was going on, right? They used to make handmade watches. So it was very popular back then. So it so happened that Enikar also started off the same in the same way, and it was started by a gentleman by name Artist Racine. So they started developing mechanical watches from 1854 onwards. So it so happened that in their family, right, till about the 1900s and when they hit that about 1914 period, right? A lot of his family members, they moved out of Switzerland. It so happened that their brand, though they were popular when they started out, right? He thought that the brand was losing its charm. In 1914, what he thought was, so he thought that the old Racine brand was not working out. So all he did was that Racine was the family name. Okay, it was his last name. So all he came up with the thought was he just reversed his name, the last name, right, to that of any car. So if you reverse any car, right, it will be his family name.
Oh.
So he rebranded a lot of things and he put in a lot of thought on his, the way he wanted to make watches and build something around the technology. He came up with some exceptional models. So back then they were always known for their precision and accuracy. They kept the watches kept time in the harshest of conditions, right? Their watches initially when they progressed through the 1900s and when they hit the 1950 mark, right, that was their milestone period for back then, right? There were no there were a lot of very good Swiss brands, but a lot of them, right, were not known for their survival in harsh conditions. So Racine, artist Racine also had this brainwave in the 1950s that why don't I do something where I make a watch which can even withstand most of the extreme conditions. So with that idea, right, he came out with perhaps one of the greatest watches that has ever been made in Swiss watch history by any car. It is called as the Sherpa series. The watch was so advanced for its time. When it came out in the 1950s, right, Sherpa had a very interesting background as to how it the reason for launching it. Okay, so Racine, when he scouted and researched the market, right, he found that for every other activity like deep sea scuba diving, you had the diver watches. Outdoor activities, for jungle expeditions, you have these expedition watches.
Correct.
For high altitude flying and all, you had this aviation watches. Surprisingly, there were no watches which could withstand high altitudes. So he came up with this idea and him the variant as a Sherpa. So that was the breakthrough technology, and they were at least 50 years ahead of their time when they made this watch.
Okay.
The series, basically the Sherpa series. So then what happened was they produced their first prototype in the mid 1950s, and as a test, right, they gave their first cut watches to a group of Swiss mountaineers who were on the verge of scaling the Mount Everest.
Oh. Okay.
So Mount Everest, the moment you say Mount Everest, the altitudes are in excess of 8,800 meters.
Correct.
There was one particular person who was leading that whole mountaineering expedition by name Ernst Reis. So this was the guy who was leading that expedition. So when Racine distributed these Eniker Sherpas to them, so they were very skeptical, because what happens is as you scale higher, right, as you scale higher, either the watch slows down or it completely stops because of the altitude. It is not built. The normal mechanical watches are not built for high altitudes. So what happened was, doubtfully, Ernst Reis accepted the watches, and they just proceeded with the expedition. The expedition proved to be very successful, and when Ernst Reis came back to Switzerland from that successful expedition, so the first thing Racine wanted to know was like, hey, how did the watch last? Ernst Reis, the first thing he said was that he had never seen such technology. Even at the highest altitude of 8,800 meters, right, the watch did not even have 1 second of it did not deviate the time for even 1 second. Such was the technology. This Sherpa model became their breakthrough in terms of the technology, and for the next 35-40 years there was no looking back for this particular variant.
Oh, so about 3-4 decades they carried on with the Sherpa series as such?
Absolutely. I mean, they came up with chronometers, divots, plenty of variations to Sherpa. Sherpa as a variant, it exploded. So there were multiple derivatives to it. They came up with some unbelievable models.